Okay, fine. So thanks a lot. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. Welcome to U Talks. My name is Mukesh Sharma, and U Talks is a small initiative where we talk about technology, arts, life, knowledge, and society. So we have a few guests today. We have Mihir Malia, we have Tanmay Bhanushali, and Tushar, and his parents, Tushar and Shilpa Bhanushali as well. So I would be asking to introduce Mihir first of all. Mihir, can you give a little bit of your introduction for our audience who will be watching this?
Yeah, certainly. Yes, so my name, as you said, Mihir Malia. I'm actually based in the US now. I also was based in Shanghai for a while. Just a bit about my background of how I ended up here was I graduated from Shanghai Singapore International School in 2014. I did the IB program, and that was when I came to the US. After that, I did my bachelor's at Virginia Tech, actually. And that was a 4-year program from 2014 to 2018 in mechanical engineering. During this time, I also picked up a computer science minor, so that's actually how I ended up at my job now, where I then graduated from my bachelor's degree in 2018, and I've been working in actually the satellite communication field since then in a software engineer capacity.
Right. Thank you, Mihir. Thank you very much. And I know that we got a chance when you were I think in his first or second year to interact. We were in probably first or second year of your graduation. So great to have you here.
It was actually the summer of 2016, I believe, that we interacted.
Right, absolutely. So now you're based in which part of US?
I'm based on the East Coast. I'm in Virginia near DC.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much, Mihir, and welcome. And thanks a lot for joining in your night time. So thanks.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Right. Let's talk to Tanmay. Tanmay, please introduce yourself. We'd like to know about you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanmay. I graduated high school in 2016 from Dulwich College, Suzhou. So even though it wasn't Shanghai, it was the similar process. Did the IB program and did the IGCSE program before that. I'd always been interested in technology and programming from a young age. So to me, choosing computer science came as a second nature to me. I did my bachelor's in HKUST in Hong Kong over here. And it was great. It was a nice, great 4 years, and I'm working as a developer here in HK for the last year or so.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tanmay, for joining. So we have also your parents as well. Mr. Tushar and Ms. Shilpa as well. So Tushar ji, Shilpa ji, if you would like to just have a quickly introduction, how long you have been in Shanghai, China?
Yeah, good morning, Mukesh, and good evening, Mihir and everybody. Well, myself with Tushar and Shilpa, we are here. We have been staying here in Shanghai and Suzhou from last 17 years. And I've been working here in a section of sourcing and supply management. I'm right now working for one of the US-based company taking care of Asia Pac, their all operations in terms of the sourcing and supply management.
Okay, thank you very much, Tusharji. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you, Shilpaji. So my first question to Tanmay and Mihir, that as a student, when you have gone through the whole program, when you were entering into the program, you always have certain expectations and dreams. So when you go out, and now both of you are have passed out, and now contributing to corporates and to the industries. So, what is the difference between the dreams you had and now, you are having the experience on that track? Maybe Mihir can go first, or Tanmay, whoever want to go first.
Interesting story of how I ended up in the software field after graduating in mechanical engineering.
Mihir, your voice is a little bit cracking. Looks like Mihir is fixing his voice.
I mean, I can continue on. So I would say, in terms of the differences between what I thought, honestly, working as a developer is still similar to what I thought it would be. In terms of the program and in terms of the university, I will say, like, the major difference is you are definitely babied a lot less in university. There's no one there to hold your hand, right? When you are in school, it's just it's a lot more structured, it's a lot more rigid, it's a lot more prepared. But when you go to university, the time between your classes is completely free. The way or how you design your schedule is up to you. So that extra freedom and that extra autonomy definitely adds an extra layer of decision making to certain sort of decisions and how your life will be over the course of 4 years. So that way, studying in a program is really great. It gives you a little bit of focus, but it also allows you to yourself develop a sense of organizational pride and a sense of planning in everything. And then as I've come to work and as I've sort of passed out of university and as I'm working in the industry, those are sort of the lessons that are kind of gained from university. Obviously, there's the knowledge and there are those like the core principles and the theory, but it's definitely more about how to manage the workload, how to plan the various things that come your way. All of those small things matter a lot as well when it comes to work. And I guess this was sort of my surprise factors. I didn't know how much of these small organization planning, how much of it really impacts the work. And only until I started working did I understand how important the whole planning and scheduling is with everybody. Before that, I guess I was more of the mindset that the knowledge and the skill is the most important. But actually, as you do start work, you realize how important the whole people aspect of just general work is. And especially in the tech industry, where you don't think that if you don't think that dealing with people or dealing as a social aspect is that important, but you do realize that even if you are a programmer, that whole social aspect of work is extremely crucial. I think that's sort of a big thing that I learned as the main difference.
Got it. So I think you mentioned that the planning, scheduling of the parts, and then the people interaction is something which probably you find it more additional. Of course, the corporate offers you more dimensions of experiences as well. So thanks, Tanmay, for your description. Mihir, would you like to define your experience of what you were expecting, going to the corporate and when you were studying, what are the differences you have felt? Abhir, probably you're on mute. We're not able to hear you. I think looks like Mihir's connectivity has certain challenge, Mihir. Would you like to refix the connectivity? Because it looks like the voice is not coming. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll continue with the next question. I'll come back to Mihir once he's able to probably come back. And next question would be to ask you that when you were going through the process of selection, and of course we had a brief chat when you were in Shanghai, Tanmay, at the time. We did talk about it, but when you were also trying to apply for different colleges in US or probably other locations, what striking difference you found between the application process of Hong Kong or probably other countries when you were applying?
I would definitely say that the essay writing component is a lot more prevalent in the US universities. And what I mean by that is just there's a lot more essays to usually write, more specific questions that the university may ask you. And realistically, it's the US universities are probably a tad more holistic in terms of their application evaluation methodology. whilst the Hong Kong universities are a lot more academically inclined and academically focused when they're viewing your application. So whilst the essays and the personal statements for the HK universities are important, they do ask for it. They certainly do not hold the same sort of weight that the US universities hold in terms of the essays. Being that it is may, I will also say that the US universities, I also feel, expect a lot out of every application, right? They expect, every application and every student to do a good amount of extracurricular activities, do a good amount of, possibly sports or music, and have a lot of like these holistic requirements of that student. So that's a little tough, but I mean, those are basically the way the world is going towards now. It's these universities, and especially these American universities, are expecting students to sort of be more well-rounded and be more sort of skillful in all aspects as they can be of a student's life. And Hong Kong is still to this day more academically inclined, more academic focused. So in terms of application, even in terms of essay writing, Hong Kong would be more towards, one who enjoys studying, who has been towards studying, and, they're mainly looking and focusing at grades and your reports and stuff like that.
So what you wrote for your US, universities was the same kind of essays were applicable for even for your, other applications? So it's like a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of a twist, and then you can probably do that? Or was it significantly different?
Depends. Definitely, it was possible. It's realistically on a case-to-case basis. As when you're applying to university and when you're writing your own personal statement, that personal statement is applicable towards all in each university. But in many US universities, you'd have them asking like some custom question more towards their university, and you also almost always have for US universities the why question, right? The why this university, or why is this important to you? So those questions are always they have to be specifically tailor-made to answer for that particular university. But in most cases, to a certain extent, the essays are transferable.
Right. Okay, excellent. So I'll let me check if Mihir has joined back, if his voice is still reaching to us. Mihir, I know you have been trying hard to have a good connectivity, but are you able to hear us?
Hi, I'm able to hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. So perfect. Okay. Now I know you had some challenges with connectivity, and in the meantime, I actually asked two things to Tanmay. So probably I'll now go to you asking the same things. So
Sure.
I mean, the question was that when you were aspiring to be in the universities and the kind of dreams and expectations you have, how does it changes or how does it matches with your experience now in corporate? And I think you are working for now a couple of years there.
So actually one thing I would like to touch on is actually what you think you might be doing in college is not at all what you'll end up working on in corporate very quickly. Just as case in point being, I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, but I now work as a software and systems engineer. So there's some adaptability there that you have to work with. Just because in many cases, a lot of companies won't hire you necessarily for your bachelor's or your major specifically. They may actually hire you for other skills you have. So in my case, that was because of various projects I had undertaken during my undergraduate degree, during which I had picked up a lot of other software and electrical engineering related skills. And so things like that actually really have a big effect on what the companies will look for, or what companies perceive of you versus just your major. So that's just something I wanted to touch on. It's just an interesting thought to be had.
Right. Absolutely.
And in regards to actually corporate life is, sorry?
Yeah, please go ahead, Mihir.
Okay, and in regards to how corporate life is different, just before I dropped off, I think I was hearing something about how your interpersonal skills need to be pretty good just going into the corporate world versus, say, in high school or college, where things like that tend to come a little more naturally and you don't have to worry about them so much. And yeah, that is something I have to agree on as well. He's absolutely right. You're working in your team.
Mihir, we are experiencing a little bit challenge in your connectivity again. Can you hear us? Looks like Mihir is definitely in a place where the connectivity is a challenge. I think he got again dropped out. Okay, so let me go to Tanmay again. We'll come back to Mihir once he joins back. To the next question, that when you were studying in grade 11 and 12, there's a lot of workload anyways, and that I'm also experiencing with my son, who is now coming into grade 12. And when I look at the requirements of the applications of different universities, probably some of them are US or even HKUST or HKU. And I also look at some of the universities are offering actually dual degree programs between two universities. We attended one of the sessions with the HKU and UC Berkeley, which had a dual program. And then we attended some of the online tools of HKUST, etc. So, of course, some universities ask for more of academic requirements, but then some also ask for more extracurricular as well. So, what are the expectations of the universities that within that period of 2 years from the background a candidate is coming? It's very difficult to strike an excellent balance in all the dimensions. I mean, you cannot be excellent in curriculars, you cannot be excellent equally again in the academics. There has to be a balance. So, how do you feel that when you were in that process, what you would have done better, or probably was the university expecting something unrealistic?
No, good question. And this I feel like it's a very valid question, because every student is probably wondering the same thing: is how am I supposed to do everything at once, and how do I realistically please the university? What I would say to that is, first of all, like the university, I know for sure that one of the major things that what a university excuse me, what a university appreciates and looks at realistically is consistency. So over the course of 2 years, have you stuck to an activity, and have you really like consistently performed that activity to a certain extent? And maybe it's in some way graded. There's some proof of it. That something like that would be great. The university isn't obviously it's not looking for like some genius or something all the time, right? It's definitely not possible it is possible, but it's not it's unrealistic to have those expectations of students to be able to do everything at once in so in terms of the best way to sort of think about it is find activities that you like doing, that you can consistently do for over the course of 2 years. You can talk about either in your essays or in your interviews, and have those as sort of your hobbies and your skills as well, and then they kind of go across through life as well. Me personally, I used to play a decent amount of basketball in high school, so I joined one of the basketball teams there. So even though like I wasn't a great player, I could still play. I was on the team, and I was there, and I did it consistently over the course of 2 years. So this allowed this activity to become a big hobby of mine, and it showed to universities that that I am interested in sport, and it is something that sort of I do like doing. So I think so that's sort of the main point is you don't want to be that whole jack of all trades, master of none in this case, right? You want to pick activities that you can consistently do for a good amount of time.
Thank you. Thanks. That's a very good answer, Tanmay. So Mihir, I don't know if you can hear us clearly, and if your voice is clear, then maybe I can ask you the question which I asked to Tanmay. Can you hear us? Mihir, you're on mute probably. can see me here online, but I think his voice is not coming yet to us, because I would have asked the same question to him as well. Amir, can you hear us? Looks like okay. So you mentioned consistency. I think consistency is definitely one thing which definitely is a good virtue which they will definitely like to see, and that's why they would probably try to evaluate that. But when they, as per your experience, when you when you wrote the essays, and if you were trying to highlight your basketball activities or something which you did consistently there, because how do the universities in US probably would look at, in that way, that how do they evaluate in that case? Because would they like to see consistency, one, and of course second, that how you have contributed to some communities as well, because they ask a lot of questions about the community as well. So would that also plays a little bit? Because in cities like Shanghai, sometimes, because it's not a a developing city, it's a developed city, it's like a highly capitalistic state where you don't see poor people around and you can't do a lot of community activity. I ask Path sometimes that choose some community activity, which shows your empathy towards the society. He says that the moment he gets out of the car, goes to the school, comes back, there's a whole cleanliness all around. How to show the empathy to whom? Because if it is India, you can see poor people get a photograph done and so on. So from the world where you come in and you go, that matters a lot. So what is your view on that? If we are not in Shanghai, even if we are in some other place where it offers us opportunities to do more community work, would that strengthen our case better?
Definitely. Now here's the thing with community. So community service is definitely like one of like the major plus points in any application, right? It's sort of like community service is kind of like a cherry on top of the cake, if you will, towards sort of like each applicant. And I feel like from what I remember in IB, and I'm not sure, but when I did IB, we had to CAS and we had to do a certain amount of community service through that. So the school would organize various activities and I do them, and definitely like I would maybe briefly mention about it, but community service wasn't a big sort of part of my profile or a big sort of section of my application towards these universities. Like it was just a sort of another activity that I did. Now I know a lot of people who who've had and built their application around the community service activities that they do. Right. And that's also that's kind of like a specific application-based strategy that you can consider, where if you feel like community service holds a strong weight towards the major or the program that you're applying to, then you can tailor your application by doing a lot of different community service-based activities, talking about them in your essays, having them being showcased as like the major achievements of your profile. I would do the usual day-to-day community activities, maybe some beach cleanups, or I did Habitat for Humanity for a couple of weeks. Me and our school would organize field trips where we'd go and build libraries for underprivileged children. So we'd have all these activities there, and they'd be sort of somewhat shown in my profile. But since sort of I was applying more towards tech, my entire application was more thematic towards how I've always had a passion for technology since a young age, and those were kind of the stories that I was trying to tell. Realistically, right? Another way to put it is when you are applying to these universities, you are telling a story of who you are and what you do and what you like to do. So that's why I said when I mean consistency and when I mean this in every application, you should have its own central theme of what sort of is your personality, your theme, what are you kind of working with, and why do you want to do what you want to do, basically. Right. So it's not worth adding a bunch of things for no reason. It's not worth highlighting every achievement that you have done. it's only worth highlighting and doing these things for activities and instances where you believe it will add a lot of value towards your application. So that would be my answer, in the sense that like I did put community service a little bit here and there, but it wasn't the central theme of my application, so it wasn't sort of highlighted upon a lot.
Right. Understood. I think that's a good point, that it's not about boiling the whole ocean. Actually, it's about showing your character through your intent, and not just trying to put a list of a laundry list of things.
Yeah.
No. Understood.
Definitely.
I think Tusharji has raised a hand. Yeah, Tusharji, I'm just coming to you. So, can you speak now, or are you in a quiet place?
No,
or?
we can speak. Shilpa wants to talk basically on the community service.
Right.
Hello, Mukesh.
Yeah, Shilpaji, please go ahead.
Yeah.
I was coming to you that what was your experience and what is your guidance, for students who are applying for this now?
Yeah, about community service, I just wanted to speak one point, like why the school has introduced it. Because there are two aspects. One is a cultured kid and one is a civilized kid. So cultured kid means what? It's like how to dress up, how to talk, how to behave in the society. So culture usually we pick up from the society, we pick up from the people around us. And if suppose we don't pick up, society anyway teaches us how to be cultured in different ways. But the thing is, civilization is something which comes from inside, which comes from the family teachings, moral values, or principles which we always learn from others. Right. So community service is a part of that civilization, basically. Because a cultured kid is not, without having a great thinking or without having good values, is not useful for society. The civilized person may be pure, but how does he think, or how does he implement his thinking into a reality? No matter if he's poor, but if he's civilized person, that is useful to the society. So community service is regarding to that how can be civilized by your own thinking. Right. So when we are implementing, like when Tanmay did his community service, or when other kids are doing their, they should always have that point in their mind, that how it doesn't matter how much you get in that community service, but how honestly you do it. Right. And how much interested you are in that.
Right. Absolutely. There is a very important point you made about the cultured part, that that may not just be sufficient, but feeling for the society and community is something they all also be looking at. And ultimately we all realize that we might all become quite successful in our careers and probably our lives, but what matters is that how much we give back to society whenever it is possible, or are we looking constantly to give back to society in some or the other way. And that's what sometimes we feel, that in city like Shanghai, you don't see beggars, you don't see any problems or any littering around so much, so that the kids do not feel that, and they become very cultured, but then giving back to society doesn't come so easily. So that was probably an important thing. So now, because you are online as well, so Tusharji and Shilpaji, what was your experience when it was going through the application process? And I remember I met Tusharji last week. You also mentioned that while Tanmay is studying in HKUST, but he also mentioned to me that you must also look at HKU. And in fact, after Tusharji's advice, I came back, I looked at the HKU's website as well. So maybe an open question to the family here, that how do you compare both now, because you have passed through one and we would have come to know about the other as well. So what is your advice to the future students? Should they apply to both, and if they apply to both, which are the courses to be looked at, and what is your now real ongoing experience?
Or if you are only considering the Hong Kong aspect, then it is like what is Hong Kong offering you? Every country or every university has their own specialties. Right. And how do they carry that subject very well? What kind of mastery they have in which subjects? So it depends on the person who is interested in this university or the A university or B university. What does he want to do at last? And what is he interested at? And suppose that particular topic is getting nourished very well by university, and university is giving a lot of exposure in that, then he should look at that particular stream or that university. It depends on what stream he is interested in. Right. And then what university is offering that stream in what way. So it all depends on your personal research. Like if suppose I do that research for myself, but that research may not be same for other person because he wants something else from that
Understood.
university.
It is very hard
But
for.
I can tell you, Mukesh, in terms of when we are talking on Hong Kong side, so in Hong Kong, like HKUST and HKU are equally same in your engineering or your management. So both schools, both universities are of the similar rating. We don't want to just go to QS rating or Times rating, but even internal their way.
Yeah, but the question is that when I look, or any parent would look at from websites and all, I mean, it's very hard to figure out that which, for what they are well known for. Sometimes, or maybe it could be a public voice, but maybe not a very clear voice. But now because Tanmay is here, he might probably voice that for in which area HKUST is good, or in which probably HKU is better. How to make that distinction? Because sometimes the lines may be blurred, because we also graduated and post-graduated, so there are voice and views in the market. But then eventually you will have some famous professors in some universities in some area, some security somewhere else, or some student from some would have done better. So how do you take that? So Tanmay, your views. I mean, how do we differentiate that?
So between HKU and UST, the main sort of differences would probably be on how you would like your college life to be like. In terms of like the location, HKUST is sort of in the corner of Hong Kong, where there really isn't much to do, right? It's a fully campus-based, like fully external, away from the city almost campus. Going into the city takes a little bit of effort generally, and you're quite far away from the central of the city and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot more difficult for you to experience the city and experience Hong Kong, I guess. But in terms of like university, it's a beautiful view, a great peer. So it's a lot of these factors about the university that makes it different, right? As Dad said, that both universities are strong in terms of rankings, and they're strong in terms of like their academia in general, right? Both have international professors, both have strong engineering and business programs. I will say that HKU has a lot more programs in general as a university as a whole. One of the biggest differences that I've experienced from both UST and HKU, because UST is extremely engineering and business based. Right, these are their two main schools. In these two schools, there are the most students. There's also a science school, but that's a lot less emphasized. So it's mainly, when you go to UST, you will mainly meet students who are either studying one or the other. Meanwhile, at HKU, you have art majors, you have music majors, you have architecture majors, health majors, dentists, right? You have students studying majors from all across the field, from all across various industries, right? And that, I think, just makes a big difference in terms of the social dynamic amongst people, the amount of activities that happen on campus, right. Also the kind of like exposure to different classes and different environments. To an extent, that's a lot more present at HKU than it is at HKUST. Right. So those will probably be like a couple of the major differences. Depending on how, like, HKU is right in the middle of the city, it's extremely easy to go out and sort of experience Hong Kong like that. Right. So those the location, the availability of different majors. These are kind of like the factors that impact the student on a day-to-day basis more than sort of just, more than the overlaying rankings and information like that. So those are sort of my 2 points that I'd say.
Understood. So it means HKUST is more specialized, very focused,
Yeah.
and HKU will be
Yes.
like more of a university where you have other things to add on to. Now, my next question is that I have seen the emergence of some dual degree programs. And when I was talking to Tushar, he had a very positive view that that dual degree is a good area, very good. So I wanted to ask you a very pointed question that when you pass out from the universities and the all this, how does these dual degree programs are rated there? because of course in any university some of them are there and faculties are same, course structure is same. It's just that you combine and you make it a 5-year program. What are the placement prospects for the students passing through a 5-year dual degree program? Do companies really look them, differently, or is it like a worth investment making if you really choose that?
So definitely from my initial experience, a few of my classmates who've done the DDP to dual degree program, it's quite it's definitely a good program, right? You are getting 2 degrees, a business and an engineering degree, at least in UST. That's how it's structured. You are getting 2 degrees in 5 years. It's definitely a bit more stressful than your standard university path where you're only going for 1 degree. And then if you decide to do any minors or do any sort of extra things on top of a dual degree program, it becomes hard to manage. So time management is crucial when you're doing these kinds of programs. In terms of sort of job availability and sort of the general sort of how do people perceive it, it's definitely perceived extremely well, right? It's considered a difficult program. It's considered sort of a rigorous program. So, knowing that you've passed it does show that you're academically inclined and academically strong. In terms of sort of job opportunities, right now in HK, the main major markets in Hong Kong is the financial markets, right? Stock makers, hedge funds, market makers, prop funds. So these are like sort of the major industry that's there in Hong Kong. So for these positions and these roles, a dual degree program is quite attractive for these companies. Because they have a person that knows the financial aspect of everything, right? They know someone who can do the accounting, who can understand the charts, and the tech and the engineering gives them that entire analytical side of the process. Right. So the person can analyze situations, can understand, and can deduce insights and various facts from it. And realistically, the tech will then also help them as a tool for their financial predictions. So these, the dual degree program, more or less turns out sort of these kinds of students who are interested working in the financial field and sort of more in a banking or an investment banking role. From my experience, this is where I've seen most DDP people end up and do after they've come out of university.
Understood. Excellent. So if someone is really planning to add on an MBA after the graduation, then the DDP program may not be the suitable one, right? Because the DDP may not be a substitute for an MBA.
Yeah, I would say that an MBA is still a better looked upon certification and still sought after even after doing the DDP.
Understood. Great. So my next question to Tushar ji and Shilpa ji, because you went through the application process, and maybe Tanmay can also add, I understand there is a limitation of applying to 10 colleges or universities. So what is the strategy to choose those 10 universities? Because of course, everyone would like to probably get into the top or the best, but it doesn't happen always. It's a competition. So how do you choose those 10 numbers? Maybe that would be very important to know.
Yeah. So for this choosing of universities is concerned, Consulate comes into picture. He actually gives you the head start, like how to think and what to select, what do you want to do. He will first ask you, and then he will give you some of his choices as well. Right. And then you can start from there, because earlier when we start, we don't know anything about it. But as soon as we start using career guidance fair, attending career guidance fair, and talk to these counselors, we come to know a lot of things.
Right.
So at that point of time, say one or 2 years before, you should attend all these university meetings and career counseling fairs which are school organized. So we should attend them to get the idea behind every university, and the counselors talk to you. They know you, then you know them. So it makes a lot of difference. Get more socialized. and then tell you how to go about it. Like if you want to go to a dream school, then you should put 1 or 2 slots for dream school. But then don't just depend on them. Then you should have safety and target, all that routine things which are there.
Right.
So they explain you very well, very well.
Right.
Counselor needs to be strong in that case.
Because I have noticed that these students who have passed out from Path School, and of course, son and daughters of our colleagues in Shanghai, I have seen them going to University of Waterloo or University of Toronto or UCB, and then some institutes which probably do not figure out in our general lining. So I was just thinking that is there any legacy also created in a university or college that we have got students from this school, so the chances of admission in that university increases if students from Dulwich or SSIS or SAS have been going to that university more, and the admission counselors and controllers there know that more. For example, if people from Dulwich have gone to HKUST or maybe any other university, then the chances are more higher, and that's why the counselors encourage you to probably apply to those, so that your students get a higher chance of selection.
No, definitely the history does make a impact. I know for sure that from my university, from my school, 1 to 2 students per batch were picked. Well, that's not a guarantee, but like 1 student or so per class or per graduating class was sort of picked to go to UST from my school. And I think it's approximately similar across, but it definitely varies here and there. But definitely having that student go to that university from that same school plays a small role. The university knows that this is a reputable place to admit students from. Quality students are coming from this location,
Right.
so we can come back and get more relief. But it's not like a big sort of factor or a big deal per se.
Right. So it means yes, there will be.
Mukesh, my point of view here.
Yeah.
See, it plays some role because the consulate, the person who is this one, he has some connections sometimes with the university's recruitment team, to some extent, not everywhere. That's one thing. But legacy of continues from the schools play little bit too. But we need to decide as a parent once we discuss with schools that where we want to go ahead, because like Canada or US or Hong Kong, so we have to first prioritize where we should focus first, so that we can keep those things as a dream schools, and then go for targets. And safety you can play.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the slot more than 10, like Dulwich has got a slot of more than 10, but I don't know about other schools also have the similar rules,
10,
or
10,
they allow
yeah,
for
10.
15.
No, I think it is the same thing for SSIs as well. They allow only 10.
So the locations we need to, as a parent, should decide as soon as possible. Okay, my priority goes to give him for undergrad to this location, this, and then go for plan A. In a plan A, you can have it all these 10 schools. Plan B, if something is not happening as per the 10 schools, what is the plan B? Because I have seen certain cases, Mukesh, that a lot of people may not talk openly. See, Waterloo and all this, getting admission is easy, but they also tried everywhere. But people may not talk openly. Oh, I didn't get. Everybody will say, everybody talk goody, but they don't say what happened, because there are so many applications. You do it, how many are failed, people won't say.
Right. Absolutely. Nothing. Of course, this is a lot of applications go to multiple colleges, and many number of applications are increasing. So it's not all about competition, but it's also about the choices universities get. And then they will also try to make a cohort of their own class, and there's a lot of luck also, so there are a lot of factors in that. Right. So that's why. So anyway, I think for us, we are, of course, Hong Kong is our first priority for multiple reasons. Asia, close proximity, and then also, closeness to the technology and drawing the advantages out of what you have learned and spend your time in Greater China region. So there are a lot of things. And then going to an MBA is another, plan, he has. So in that perspective, the moment you plan to do an MBA, then you can do it from any place. You have MBAs in Europe, US, even in India, even in other places. So in that perspective, I think Hong Kong we're trying to place is the first one. So the HKU was not in my plan, but I was thinking that maybe we can go and make applications for both HKUST and HKU. We also attended some program of, I looked at HKU's dual degree program, which is mixed with HKU Cambridge and HKU UC Berkeley as well, which is like 2 year in Hong Kong and 2 year in US actually. But then it is like the application goes to both colleges, and then it is if you get into this, then it is possible. And for HKU Cambridge, the program was that after first year, if you attain certain number of grades, then you will go to Cambridge. Otherwise, you will continue to study in HKU. So there are a lot of innovative programs also coming up, even in the Hong Kong side, which can offer you, multiple options to go ahead. That was one. Of course, UK is something which, or Europe is something which we are not actively looking because of purely for the job market. I mean, the placement markets are not so attractive sometimes, and UK is the only place. US has so many colleges that it's always a fallback option. If you do not get anywhere, somewhere, if you choose some, decently ranked colleges, there's a very high chance of getting into this. So in US, we are trying to think if we can put into some dream colleges and put into some, colleges which are decently ranked. So that was something which we were trying to understand. So trying to make a list of those 10, colleges.
Yeah, I mean, making, what's interesting is I've come to university and I've asked a few of my students, my friends, right, what their university process was like, how they applied, and none of them would have any of these university limit restrictions.
Okay.
So I think it's specifically a more international school restriction, and that more in China particularly, because only people I know from China have really agreed with me on this. But everyone else I talked to here applied to at least 15 to 20 universities during their high school. So I'm not, looking back on it, I'm not sure why it was done the way it was. And you guys should also, if you feel like an explanation hasn't been given to you, you should also ask your career counselor and ask why only 10 universities. Because honestly speaking, there is no legal there's no legal block or anything that's stopping you from applying to more. It's very possible. It's just, I think that your school is the schools are concerned that maybe people will apply to many universities and it's a lot of work on them. So that's why
Right.
that was just something that I heard. What did you what was your question again? So
I was asking the combination of choosing those 10 colleges, which we put. So we were thinking that we put 2 in Hong Kong. Singapore is something which probably not planning, maybe very hard to get in. And because you studied in the Singapore schools for so many years, you don't have any intention to continue to do your graduation there. So we're thinking we apply 8 colleges in US just for safety, and 2 in Hong Kong, and forget the Europe. Or otherwise you make 2 in Hong Kong, 3 in UK, and the rest 5 in US. But then, it comes whether you want to, or maybe applying to 8 versus 5 in US will increase your chances better or not. So that combination is something which we are trying to assess. I don't know if
I would
Mukesh,
say
there
that
is one. See, University of California. So I don't know whether you are aware about it, or you must. This one. The one application goes to 7 schools. So one slot can apply for 7 schools in University of California. So you should take that chance also.
Well, University of California has many campuses, like one is UCLA, one is UCB.
So all those things can go with one application. So there
Okay.
is a way inside that one. So out of 10 slot, if you're thinking on US, so my suggestion would be apply that, take one slot, because one slot will spread to 7 schools. So you don't use the 7 slots.
Understood. Because, we were thinking that like Mihir, who could not join in the call, he did from Virginia and he was from SSIS. And I think, if I recall his past conversation, he did apply to Georgia, but he didn't get that, I think. And he went into Virginia from there. So we were thinking that we apply maybe 1 or 2 dream colleges, which are those famous names, and the rest 5-6 we put either what Tusharji is suggesting, University of California, Virginia, or maybe Georgia, and even Purdue, because you want to also de-risk yourself. You cannot just imagine that everything best will happen to you.
Definitely.
So
And
that is
I will also say on that point of de-risking is never ever think that you are you are safe 100%.
Yes.
that you will get in. Temper your expectations.
Absolutely.
That's very important. That was a tough lesson that I feel like I also learned throughout this whole application process. You definitely and one thing is during this process, right, students will get rejected, right, will receive rejection from these universities,
right.
and that is in no way indication of your performance or your capability or your standing and intellect. That is just because of some administrative that there was no space for you, more or less most of the time, right? And realistically, that is the case, because right now there is an all-time high in terms of applications to these universities.
Right.
Everybody wants to go abroad, and everybody is trying to be unique and all that. So there is no don't feel any pressure on getting accepted into every college. Don't feel any pressure on sort of getting accepted into the best college. Always think that whatever is supposed to happen, it's happening for the good of your education and all. So it's never an indication on you or your ability. And that's an important point to be made, I think.
Right. Absolutely. So I think this is wonderful to have a discussion. Now the time is coming to close. Just one last question. I have seen also early action, regular action, and that. So how does it happen? Which ones are the better chances to get the admissions? The early actions or regular actions? Where you should aim your majority of your strength?
So definitely, I personally did not go for any early decision and early action, and I think I regret not doing it. Truth be told, so I only went for all regular decision or regular action, but an early decision or an early action shows that you've selected a particular university preference, right, over all your other universities. You can only really do an early application or early decision to one. You can to a few universities, but realistically, the way these systems work is if you're accepted via an early application or early decision, you are forced to go there to that university. Now this changes college to college, but in most cases, this is what I've read that it's true, that if you apply on an early call, then once you do get that early acceptance, you commit to that university. So this gives you better chances of getting in, but it also boxes you in to a certain degree, right? It doesn't really give you any options or anything. So it's only valid or valuable if you have maybe a certain set dream school that you are fixated upon going. If you know that you will have a good time or you will learn properly at one particular school, then it's worth. Other than that, then a regular decision would be the best.
Okay, so this I was not aware that this which means that early action is that once you get into that, then you can't choose any other college after that, right?
That depends. I feel like it's early decision, ED, like early decision.
Early decision, yeah.
Is when they don't allow you to like get admitted into other universities after you get one admitted. I think early action gives you some flexibility. Again, it really depends campus to campus, university to university on how they treat these applications.
Okay. Just one more thing, which is a follow-up question, is that the grades which you get, and Tusharji often talks about this, and I'm so thankful that he has already warned me since last year about this, that the predicted grades for grade 11 are definitely very important because that defines. But then if you go for regular action, then you still have one more term in grade 12 to actually get your grade. So which grades will go by the counselors or the admission council to the application? If you're applying for early decision, you have to do early applications, and if you go for regular, then you still have to. So when your predicted grades will be taken, and what will be the cutoff point?
So that I think is more on a school to school basis in terms of predicted grades, at least, right?
Predicted grades are predicted grades from, when you start your IB-DP2 program, your predicted grades start coming from November. That is the first one. And then after your mocks is the second predicted grade.
No, but it depends when they're having their mocks. Different schools will have mocks at different times, and they'll also review their grades at different times.
The grades which come after November, sometimes after October or sometimes after November, they are also very important.
Okay.
No, definitely for early decision though, only up to a certain point your predicted grades will count because you're applying a little early. But at the end of the day, both for early and regular, they're going to be applied through your predicted grades, right? They're not going to use your real results, but you might get then a conditional offer where you have to match a certain score, yada yada yada. That stuff is definitely there. But yeah, like predicted grades, mainly like the mocks are the exams that define those grades or impact those grades the most, at least.
That's right. Okay, so thank you very much, Tusharji. Any closing comments? Thanks a lot for making this possible to have a discussion with Tanmay and both of you.
It's our pleasure, Mukeshji, and it's an opportunity for us to express our thought process. And thank you for calling us on these calls and going into those days, remembering those days.
Absolutely, and because of pandemic, we haven't seen Tanmay for a while now. I think last time we met was in 2019, almost 2 years now. So once the border of Hong Kong is opened, even I am wishing to go to Hong Kong, travel to Hong Kong because
yes, sure.
We have also business there, but I'm not able to travel at all. I hope it opens. So we'll definitely, if I go to Hong Kong, I'll definitely meet Tanmay, or if the border opens, I'm sure Tanmay will travel to Shanghai and will get a chance to have a reunion for that.
Definitely.
Wishing best luck, Mukeshji. Any kind of information, it's our pleasure and it's our duty as well. As we have gone through phase, when we were in that phase of application, a lot of people has helped us the way we are talking today. So
right.
It's our duty as well.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck to you, Mukeshji, and also best of luck to Parth as well. Good luck to Parth.
Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely all the best to Parth and his
Nidhi and Nidhi saying hi to both of you and Tanmay as well. And of course, we wish to meet soon if the border opens. And thanks a lot for the wishes and good wishes, Tanmay. In Hong Kong.
Thank you.
I know that now you are creating your own network and all your possibilities there. But feel free to reach out to me in any case, any help support you need, because we are trying to do that. Yeah. Thanks a lot for coming on to UTalks, and thanks a lot. Thank you very much. We'll keep in touch and have a good weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Your regards to Nidhi as well.
Regards to Nidhi and you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.